What's going on, you guys? It's your Huggable Hipster here, and welcome to today's video, where today I'm going to be discussing with you guys how you guys can start in gaming journalism. Now, before we get into the real meat of the video, where I explain what your first steps are and how you really get into the industry, I want to explain something and make this incredibly clear, so perk those ears up and listen. This is not a fast track to success whatsoever. This is not an easy money thing. This is not something that you can just do and you'll be immediately successful at it. This job is probably one of the most intense I've ever experienced in all of my years working and doing jobs and all that kind of stuff. It is one of the most intense I've ever experienced. I'll tell you right now, I was a bartender. I used to work as a tutor at the college I went to for both biology and psychology. I used to be a cashier at a record store in New Jersey. I used to work as basically a secretary for my parents' business. I still do stuff with their business till today. But never have I ever experienced something as demanding and as grueling as being a journalist. It takes time. It takes a lot of effort and self-motivation to work for basically nothing. Like, I'm only just now getting noticed for the reviews that I'm putting out, and I've been doing game reviews since 2018. I started my gaming channel in 2016. I started doing freelance work for one of my friend's websites at the time. When the website shut down for gaming journalism and his game reviews, I asked him if I could basically keep going with the reviews on my own webpage and my own blog and everything. He was like, yeah, sure, that sounds good. And in 2018, it started up. I started up basically starting to write for every single game that I finished. I wrote a review for, and that's still what I do till today. It's one of those jobs where when you think you've learned something and you've got something on lock and key, you have to learn something else. You have to do something better. You have to make approaches that you wouldn't have ever thought of before. And you need to make different assumptions and calculations on whether or not one game review might be good to do, but not another because it might not work well with your audience base or something like that. There's always going to be something new that you will have to figure out and juggle. So first off, I'm going to tell you guys the cons of being in gaming journalism. That it's kind of funny because, starting with the cons, people are probably going to be like, Ariel, why are you starting out with the negatives? That way, when I tell you guys the positives, it will make sense. It will most likely just grapple with you guys that much more, and you'll be able to see, oh, okay, so this doesn't come without this kind of thing. So let's get into that thing. And by no means is this a be-all, end-all advice or anything like that. This is just my experience and what I've gone through just in order to get to where I am with gaming journalism right now. I also want to state I don't work for a company. I work completely freelance. I have my own website. I have my own games that I set for review. I don't work for a company that tells me what to review and, what deadlines it has to keep by. So that's definitely a plus whenever you're really new in the industry, is being able to work for yourself. So the first thing that's a major con is you don't get paid anything. I'm so sorry to tell you this. I'm sorry to squash those dreams right up front, but you don't get paid anything. You don't get paid money until you're really well known in the industry. Even when you're doing a game journalism and you're working on, let's say you have over 100 reviews, you still might not get paid. That's the reality of it. It's one of those things of where I am always a big believer in getting paid for the work that someone does, but when it's a passion project and when it's something that you really like, especially in the entertainment industry, because this is entertainment. We are providing reviews for pieces of entertainment in this industry. I feel like you really have to just pay your dues. And this is a part of paying your dues. This is a part of understanding that you might not get paid for all of what you do. You might get paid for 50% of what you do. But finding multiple streams of income helps a lot. I do graphic design for thumbnails for clients. I do video editing for clients. I also have a Patreon that I get paid for the videos stuff that I do for early access stuff. Now, I made the choice to do two different kinds of reviews for the same game. For a written review, I have that as an article up on my blog. You can check it out down in the description below. Or, as you guys have seen on my YouTube channel, for those of you who are new, hi, I do game reviews. You guys have seen that I do video versions of those reviews, and I take clips from the game that I played and I record that. I might actually explain some of the process, because it's really kind of like, you have to understand that there's so much that is involved with doing a game review. If you choose to go this route and not just do the articles, but make a kind of combination between doing a video version of the review and doing an article version of the review, it'll reach a lot more people. So the biggest con is that people will see that, and they will see all these different avenues and all these different things. You'll get people picking apart your work, your very hard work. So that's one thing just to be aware of. If you don't take criticism well, or you don't take trolls very well, this is not the job for you. I'm sorry, but it's not. You have to be able to have thick skin and understand that not everything needs to be taken personally. Unless it's personal, then that's something else entirely. But you can't take everything personally, or else this job, you are going to sink faster than you'll swim. When you are starting off, do not take on more than you can chew. I cannot stress this enough. When you are reviewing games, review games that you might not have played before, that are older, or review games that are newer, that, a mixture of both are going to be very good for numbers and for people who are reading your stuff. Because 9 times out of 10, if you review something about Silent Hill, people are going to read it and people are going to respond. If you review something about Far Cry, people are going to respond, and they're going to act either positive or negatively. Again, don't let what people say affect you. If it's a troll, let it just brush off, okay? It's easier said than done. I understand this, because trolls have very creative ways of trying to get underneath our skin. But when you are reviewing a game, it's very important to pick things that you know you'll be able to play in a decent amount of time, get it reviewed, and get it out as quickly as possible. There are some places that as soon as the game comes out, you will see a review for it. For me, in my reviews, I review 5 games at a time. I know that might seem like a lot to you guys, but when you know how to space it out and you know how to approach every review, it's nothing. Once you get to that comfort place of knowing how much time to spend on what thing, it becomes a lot easier to deal with. You were going to get more of the indie games for free. So when you get more well-known, just keep in mind the fact that you just get like different indie games sent to you. There's keymailer.com. There's so many different avenues to ask for keys for games, and there's no shame in that whatsoever. Please do not feel bad for asking for a key for a game. The worst thing that can happen is that they don't respond. That's it. That's it. But literally, or they say no. Necessarily call this next thing a con, just a little bit more of a realism aspect. Don't expect for reviews to pop off instantly. You might get a few people who are sarcastic, you might get a few trolls here and there, but don't really expect your reviews to pop off instantaneously. It takes time, it takes dedication. You have to write a lot of reviews before you even make a drop in the market. And one last thing I want to add to this before we go into the pro section of what what gaming journalism has to offer that's absolutely incredible, is try to incorporate as much of different aspects of the game as possible when you're writing a review. That way, when you write a review, you're talking about mechanics, you're talking about the music, you're talking about the story, you're talking about if this is going to, please certain audiences over others. You need to talk about a lot of things, but also add your own impressions too. If it's an op-ed, which is an opinion piece, you want to be able to incorporate a lot of what your thoughts on the game are, which, in fairness, that's what a lot of game reviews are. They are opinion based. There are some websites where you can't do that. You can't use the word you or I. You have to use different tenses of different words. So it becomes a little more clustered and a little more specific. But when you're working for yourself, it's easiest because you can dictate how you write articles. Now, another thing I want to add, I just thought of this. One thing that I was recently taught is that the majority of game reviews and the majority of game writing is gaming news. I know, you didn't expect that, right? The majority of things that you will write as a gaming journalist will be gaming news. Now, when you are first getting your feet wet into the gaming space and gaming journalism sphere, you want to write reviews. You want to be able to write as much as possible about anything, literally anything you can get your hands on, because that will practice your writing skills. That will make you more well-versed in the space and how to approach different topics. Because right now I mostly do game reviews. So when I do gaming news, it's a little bit out of my comfort zone because I'm more or less accustomed to speaking gaming news like I do in the Casual Nerd here with you guys. I don't not normally accustomed to doing gaming news writing wise. So it's still something for me that's new that I have to get accustomed to, because that's the majority of what gaming journalism is when you get hired at a certain website, because that's the majority of what gaming journalism is writing about gaming news or gaming tech. So with all of that covered, with all of the nitty gritties and all that kind of stuff, let me tell you guys what is absolutely so incredibly awesome, what the pros are about being a gaming journalist. So the main pros is that what people give you feedback. And I know this might seem like such a boring pros, like, Ariel, people giving you feedback, really? It makes your stuff that much better for the next time. Because I got such good feedback on a recent article that I did for Visage, and I carried over now into the next one and the next one. And that's how you learn, and that's how you grow. And I love that shit. Next is when people really resonate with your pieces. I think that is the topping on the mother-loving cake. That is just absolutely the most incredible thing that you can ever experience, is someone actually like really clicking and resonating with a piece that you wrote or a review video that you did. It is oh my God, it makes the job so much more worth it. And the other thing is that you work for yourself primarily, because right now, since I can only speak from my experience, if you have a 9-to-5 job, it does make things a little more hectic, I would say. But if you work for yourself and you can have a stay-at-home income, if that's possible, then it is the most rewarding thing ever to be able to set your own schedule, to be able to just wake up and be like, I'm gonna write today. Like, I think that's just so incredible, and I'm so fortunate to be able to be in a position where I can do that. And another pro I would definitely say is whenever you get a piece done that you have been struggling with for a hot minute. Like right now, I'm having such a writer's block with my Far Cry 6 article, but I know that once I get through it, it will be smooth sailing, because I break up my articles into several parts and several paragraph parts. So when people read it, it's kind of like a story flow. You know, you go from point A to point B to point C to point D, and it's just taking you through a different story. It's taking you through like an organized thing, an organized experience, I would say. I could literally sit here all day and tell you guys about the positives about writing, but that video would be like literally an hour long. So I'm going to end this video and tell you guys my process in how I write articles. So first off, I will go, and I'm looking at my screen right now to get like a good visual on how I can like talk about this in as a concise way as humanly possible. So what I'll do first is I will go and, you know, play the game. I'll take notes while I'm playing the game. So if you guys are like who are assigned to my Patreon, you guys know that I'll take pictures of the notes that I take and I will post them there. So what I normally do is like when I start a game, I'll like, here's a good idea. For my notes, I'll write the header of what the game is. If I know the title that I want to title it, I'll do the title. And then I'll put like different headers over here of what to focus on: the story, psychology of the son in Far Cry. As a new Far Cry player, how did I experience the game? All that kind of stuff. Then I go into story points, psychological points, all these different kinds of things. That way I keep track of it. That way I already basically have the review done by the time the end of the game comes. So that way I'm only like cleaning up things grammatically and, you know, all that. By the way, you are going to find out very, very quickly if you are the type who, whenever you're writing your piece, if you like to edit your grammar versus if you can't stand it. I can't stand it. I like writing it, and then I go back and I'm like, oh, I gotta edit this and I gotta edit that. Blah, blah, blah. I hate it. Then after I have the notes done, after I have everything done, normally while I'm also playing a game, I will record footage. That way I can put in the footage into my review video, like you guys have seen with several review videos that I've done now. Then what I'll do after that is once I have my entire review recorded and after I have all the footage recorded, I go in, I edit everything. And since I basically already have the article done, that's going to be the script that I use for the video reviews that you guys see. So once that is all done, I try, it takes so long to upload in 4K. It takes so long, but I want to start doing that instead of 1080p because it looks that much more crisp. It looks that much more just professional. So don't be surprised if anytime soon, even with the Far Cry 6 review, if you guys see it in 4K, because I really want it to be in more 4K videos. So you guys, that was basically like my advice to you on how to get started in gaming journalism. And also a last piece of advice, something that I can recommend is don't be scared. I know it's like really overwhelming sometimes to, you know, try to think of your first article to do. But if you're a YouTuber and you've played a game, pick one of the games that you've played, do a review on it. It's that simple. You know, a lot of the time people get so stuck in the what ifs. I have over 100 articles that I've written for game reviews and for news articles. Don't be afraid to always go outside the box and outside of your comfort zone, because that's when the true inspiration strikes. That's when everything really starts to happen. And I think it's so cool whenever you have that momentary strike of genius, I want to call, of when you're like, oh, I can try this in the article and I can do this in the review video, and it works out. Life works out in mysterious ways. So don't ever feel discouraged if something doesn't go according to plan. That means there's just always something over the horizon that is just about, you know, just around the corner waiting for you. So always try new things. Understand that this is not an easy business to get into, but once you get into it and you start getting more known, it took me from 2018 until now. This year was finally the year that people really started taking more of my reviews seriously. It takes a hot minute to get into. I'm not going to sugarcoat it and say, oh yeah, you're going to make it as soon as you post your first article, boo. It's not like that at all. So don't listen to people who are hype people just because they don't want to be negative. Listen to the people who are actually going to be there for your best interest, even though the honesty may hurt. That's what I've learned. And the thing is that over time, the honesty doesn't seem painful anymore because you're not taking it seriously. You're taking it more as a constructive criticism instead of taking it personal. And that's what I learned over the years. It took a very long time for me when I was younger to learn how to take constructive criticism, and now I take it like a pro. You know, I love constructive criticism so much. But you guys, that was my video for today. If you all like my face and what I do, please be sure to subscribe and hit the bell down below. I make videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Couldn't make it yesterday. I was just exhausted. I didn't feel like posting, so here it is today. And yeah, stay casually nerdy, you guys. I'll see you all in the next video. Bye, you guys.